Is sponsored regime change coming to South Africa, courtesy of the Americans?
This is hot on the news that a certain Victoria Newland is in South Africa or will be in South Africa very, very soon. And Victoria Newland is one of the biggest neocons the world has ever known. And in this video, we're going to talk about her.
So for those of you who don't know, this American lady, wherever she goes, war follows. She's basically the American equivalent of a shitstorm. Wherever she goes, civil wars follow, presidents get toppled, regimes get changed.
So Victoria Newland has worked for the Clinton administration, the Bush administration, the Obama administration, but not the Trump administration. Unfortunately, she wiggled her way through back into the Biden administration. And what Victoria Newland does is she's part of this conglomerate of NGOs in Washington, which are neoconservative, i.e. bombing countries to become more democratic. And the most obvious example of this is Ukraine 2014.
We, of course, never choose candidates in any country. But what we do in countries that proclaim to be democracies is we offer the opportunity for candidates of all kinds to learn how to put themselves forward to best effect.
Have we ever tried to meddle in other countries' elections?
Oh, probably.
We don't do that now, though. We don't mess around other people's elections, Jim.
Only for a very good cause.
Can you do that?
I think Yates is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience. He's the guy, what he needs is Cleach and Tony Book on the outside. He needs to be talking to them 4 times a week. I just think Cleach going in, he's going to be at that level working for Yatsenyuk. It's just not going to work.
We, of course, never choose candidates in any country. We offer the opportunity for candidates of all kinds to learn how to put themselves forward to best effect, and we always support the right of peaceful political protest in any country.
So in 2014, Newland had a phone call with another American where they actually discussed how regime change is going to happen in the Ukraine. And guess what? The Maidan Revolution happened in the Ukraine. I'm sure it's just a coincidence.
So the Maidan Revolution, for those of you who don't recall, because you didn't watch our interview with a Russian representative in South Africa, go back and watch it. Well, what actually essentially happened is that Moscow found itself with a very pro-Russian president. Who knew? Apparently these things do actually exist. And the West didn't like that because it meant that Ukraine was more likely to side with Russia than it was the EU. Well, the Americans had their thoughts on this, and so what they effectively did is they sponsored regime change, a coup happened, the Russian leader found himself gone, and would you know it, we got Zelensky, who was pro-European. Hey, who knew?
And she famously said in that particular phone call that she will be deciding on who the next president of Ukraine would be. And she famously said, fuck the EU, because the EU wanted someone different. So obviously, Victoria Newland is a terrible actor, a person who's responsible for a variety of coups and color revolutions around the world. And she's on her way to South Africa. So, Byron, is regime change coming to South Africa now that she will be here?
Well, I did mention that, who knew, this was kind of obvious. And why would I say that? Well, for a number of reasons, really. South Africa is obviously hosting the BRICS conference this year, and part of the focus of the BRICS conference is moving away from the dollar and moving towards its Eastern allies as opposed to its American allies. And America is finding this a very big stretch. It's a big toll to play on the American hegemony here in the southern tip of Africa because America has found its currency depreciating, well, pretty much everywhere in southern Africa. It's already lost its currency, its position in Zimbabwe, which has decided to side with the Russians, and the Chinese. We see the same thing occurring in Mozambique. We know that the ANC is incredibly pro-Russian because of the historical relationship, and the Americans don't really like this, especially given the Lady R incident, which happened in the DA's Western Cape. What else are we expecting to see in the next few months? Well, actually another election, and that election, due to happen in 2024, is just around the corner. And polls suggest the quickest way to make the ANC lose that election is to have a repeat of July 2021. That event, were it to occur again, would almost certainly ensure that the ANC do not win the election. Is it possible that the Lord of War, because we'll call her that for the purposes of this podcast, But is it possible that she's here to incite another one?
So I find that a bit hard to believe, personally speaking, but no doubt she is being sent by the Biden administration to remind Cyril that America is the policeman of the world and that America, wants more influence in South African politics. We can't underplay this. This is not some mid-level bureaucrat from Washington. This is a very high-level, very strategic, very smart operator of the American empire. And if they are sending her here to South Africa, they're either very concerned about where South Africa is going, or B, they're just going to bribe their way back so that we become another vassal state of the global American empire. This is the only reason she's actually here.
Yeah, I think we both call this in the exact same way. And that is, I cannot see that this individual in our soil would be here to do anything but undermine our national sovereignty. Why would I say that? It's not a conspiracy theory. Everywhere this woman goes, regime change follows. So you have to ask yourself, why is she here? Why'd she come to South Africa? And it is highly possible, Ramon. Maybe she just likes our beaches and lovely wine. Maybe she's only here for a beach holiday.
Let's not forget that this is the person who said she was gratified that the Nord pipeline was a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea. She's quite happy to sacrifice, Western Europe energy to make sure bad boy Butler doesn't get his way. Who knows what tricks she has up her sleeves for South Africa. Just be very, very wary that this woman brings no joy whatsoever, only death and destruction.
The architect, by the way, of our current war with Russia was also the architect of the war in Iraq. Now, that war began under false pretenses. More than 1 million people died for no reason, and it destroyed ancient Christian communities in Iraq. Before the war, there were about 1.5 million Christians in that country. Now just a few 100,000 are left. But Nuland was never held to account for any of this. In fact, she was praised, and then she was promoted. So she went back into government service, and she was caught on tape orchestrating a coup in Ukraine. We're not making this up. Here's the tape from 2014.
Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience. He's the guy, what he needs is Cleach and Tony Book on the outside. He needs to be talking to them 4 times a week. I just think Cleach going in, he's going to be at that level working for Yatsenyuk. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Okay.
So that's the lady who lectures us about democracy, subverting democracy in a foreign country, getting caught, and then getting an even better job, and then pushing another pointless war on our country, this one against Russia. She's one of the architects of this war. Nuland is driving this nation into a conflict against both Russia and China. We can't win that war. We will lose that war. It will destroy our country. But Toria Nuland has never been punished for any of this. Once again, she's been promoted. The destruction that she has wrought is really almost beyond fiction. Here she is bragging about blowing up critical infrastructure in Europe. Watch.
Senator Cruz, like you, I am, and I think the administration is very gratified to know that Nord Stream 2 is now, as you like to say, a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea.
That's just disgusting. And yet no one says a word about it. What does it take to get indicted in Washington? Well, if you're Toria Nuland, of course, you will never be indicted for anything. You'll get some sort of glass ceiling breaking award for women at the State Department.